welcome into week 6 of the Yinziders. Steelers back from their bye. I'm Jenna Harner. He is the Athletics' Mike DeFabo. Mike, we're back in the country, first off.
And we're sitting next to each other by popular demand. People are wondering, why are you guys not sitting in the same room? Well, because I have to do a podcast to convince Jenna to actually spend time with me.
That's not true.
So here we are in the same room recording a podcast.
We love spending our time like this. We do. But diving right in, it's Browns week. It's the first divisional matchup the Steelers have seen this season. I think the biggest takeaway coming out of Mike Tomlin's press conference on Tuesday was kind of the health of this team. Clearly the bye, I mean, you take the bye no matter what, but the bye was needed just to get some of the guys who we haven't seen in action in a while, i.e. Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr., Jaylen Warren, who just missed that one game in Dublin. But those three guys seem to be returning. However, there are some concerns for the guys who we didn't get definitive answers on. Mike Tomlin talked about both Calvin Austin and Jalen Ramsey. They're going to be limited in the early parts of the week. He's encouraged by the progress and their probability or their possibility, but I don't know, reading between the lines, I don't know if we're going to see either of them this week.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty difficult to tell. I mean, when Calvin Austin took that hit, he ultimately had to leave the game and get x-rays. Those x-rays were negative, which is a good sign, but there are a lot of injuries that it could be. I don't know what it is, but I mean, a separated shoulder, what they used to call a separated shoulder, also known as an AC joint sprain. That seems like something that could be likely. That's one possibility, and it would depend on the grade of the sprain, how long he could miss. Just speculating. And then Jalen Ramsey, a hamstring, those are kind of touchy injuries where sometimes you feel great and then all of a sudden you go and try to run full speed and you're clearly not, or you could re-injure yourself. So I think with both cases, it's one of those, do you play them and do they make it worse? But let's talk about just like first the guys we know who are going to return.
Yeah.
And Joey Porter Jr., this secondary there's been a lot of hype about it, and there was a lot of hope that when you had Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey all together with Deshaun Elliott, you could play your 4 top defensive backs in all situations. Well, so far this season, the top 4 defensive backs have been on the field together for a whopping 25 snaps in total, all of those against the Jets. And it wasn't like they were a shutdown unit in that game.
No.
Justin Fields completed 7 of his 8 passes when all 4 of those guys were on the field, including 2 touchdowns. And that was, the one miscommunication on the high cross concept, which was a problem for them in at least two of the games and in multiple instances. So just getting Joey Porter Jr. back, and even if Ramsey plays, health alone isn't going to make this a lockdown unit.
No.
They need in-game and in-stadium experience together to become cohesive. So I feel like the sooner the better in terms of getting Joey Porter Jr. back. Not to mention, cornerbacks are asked to do a lot against the Browns.
Yeah, and it was so interesting when we heard him talk on Monday. You could just kind of see the way he's itching to get back out there. A young player wanting to make an impact, no better way to come back and do so against a massive rival in the Browns. Is it offensive to call the Browns a rival? Because they're almost, I feel like it's like the little brother where it's like, yeah. That's just how it's been here in Pittsburgh. Do people look at it as the rivalry in that way, or is it more of just
before I covered the team, I was just a fan, and I looked at it like the Steelers' biggest rival was the Ravens by far, and there was a mutual respect and physicality to that game. Then all of a sudden the Bengals got good, and it was like mutual disrespect. And it was almost, I felt like the Bengals didn't understand the terms, like you play hard between the lines, but it didn't cross the line of being dirty.
Yeah.
It felt like that was a very dirty rivalry where they were legitimately trying to hurt each other. And then the Browns, I had a roommate who was a Browns fan, shout out to Nate Atkins, and I felt like he always thought that this was some kind of big rivalry, and I never really thought about it that way. To me, it was like an easy win. Now, a little bit different, obviously, when you're covering the team. But, the Browns, they're known for their ground and pound, right? And
we saw so much with Nick Chubb and what he did.
And covering this team, so often you're in the locker room twice per season talking about the Browns, And they're always talking about how cornerbacks have to tackle
Yeah.
because with the outside zone runs, it's kind of designed where, in a lot of senses, if you bounce it outside, you've got a big running back against a corner. So, on one hand, having Joey Porter Jr. back is big because he's going to have to put his nose in there. He's going to have to be part of that solution in terms of stopping Quinshad Judkins. On the other side, if Jalen Ramsey plays, this really would be a game where you would notice his physicality. And if he's not there, I think that you're going to be missing that and you're going to be searching for some of that physicality.
Yeah, and Joey Porter Jr. with his tackling, that was something he made a big emphasis on this past offseason. I remember we talked to him during training camp. That was a big point of emphasis, an area he wanted to continue to improve on. I mean, it's going to be put to the test, especially with Quinton Junkins, like you're mentioning, because Mike Tomlin did have so much praise for the rookie, and he's been pretty much the bright spot of this Browns offense so far. I mean, we watched the game in London. He was impressive to me. And so he is going to be a big part of how this Browns offense goes on Sunday. And it's going to be up to the Steelers, Joey Porter Jr., the cornerbacks, especially looking to make plays, looking to tackle. But I'm just going to be intrigued to see how they can stop Quinshad Judkins and the run game that the Browns are going to want to come in playing with. Because again, we talk about AFC North matchups and the physicality behind it. That is such a big part of it's winning in the trenches. And whoever wins in the trenches, to me, wins this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, do you want to go back to the injuries? Do you
Yeah.
want to?
Yep. So
I
Alex
love how we do
Highsmith.
this. We had a little plan, a little outline because we're professional here, and
That's
then
right.
we immediately have deviated from the
You,
script.
you come back to it though. You always circle
Okay,
back.
you're a TV professional, so you know these things. Jenna, where were we? Do we want to talk about? So we talked about the potential return of Joey Porter Jr. or the return of Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah.
and the potential absence of Jalen Ramsey, how that could affect things, even against a team that wants to run the football. Let's talk about the outside linebacker position with Alex Highsmith.
Mm.
Um, Now, the way that I look at this is like, okay, so the talk radio narrative is, has Nick Herbig stolen playing time and snaps and even the starting role from Alex Highsmith? And here's the way that I look at it. Like the first couple weeks when the Steelers were missing Alex Highsmith, everyone was talking about how the opponents were running away from TJ Watt,
Yep.
running it toward Nick Herbig. Mike Tomlin in his press conference a couple weeks ago even said, hey, we got Nick Herbig in the middle rounds because even though he can pass rush like a first or second round pick, he's not as big. He doesn't check those boxes physically.
Yeah.
Now you fast forward to Nick Herbig having a great game against the Vikings, having a strip sack against the Patriots, and people are saying like, hey, should he get the opportunity over Highsmith? And to me, I think the answer is why not both?
Exactly.
Um, like I feel like you could use Highsmith, and he's been missing on early
Yep.
rundowns, and especially against a physical rushing team like the Browns. And then when you're in one-dimensional pass rush situations, you can bring in Herbig off the bench. And so that's personally how I would approach that dynamic. Not to mention they also have a package where you've got all three outside linebackers on the field at the same time. That's something that's been in their back pocket for dating back to last year, maybe even further. Now you can get into some of those schematics that you haven't been able to due to injuries.
And this is a good problem to have, right? If you're the Steelers, this is a problem you want to have. You want to be able to try to be finding spots for Highsmith and Herbig to kind of get worked in. I also think with talking with Alex Highsmith in the locker room on Monday of this week, he mentioned, it was a really big conditioning day for them. They really got after it. He hasn't played in 3 weeks now. Is my math right? 3 weeks? Because it was the home
Uh,
opener, and then it was the Patriots, the Vikings, and the bye week. Yeah. So Highsmith hasn't, this is he's missed 3 weeks. So uh, his physicality you take a little bit of a step back when you have an injury, especially the high ankle sprain, high ankle injury that Alex Highsmith has been dealing with. So I think just by nature of the circumstance, we're going to see a balance between the two in terms of what we're expecting on Sunday against the Browns.
Yeah, I think you'll see both. I mean, they like you're saying, like it would make sense bringing a guy back from injury that you would need to keep him on a bit of a pitch count just
Yeah.
because his conditioning isn't totally up to speed. Um, and the other part of it is like we've talked so much, like we meaning in the Pittsburgh media, about how the Steelers are trying to follow a bit of the Eagles blueprint, and we think about it more so like on offense, building from the trenches and working inside out. But the same thing can be said on defense. And one of the strengths of the Eagles is that they come at you in waves,
Yeah.
and that they've just got so many defensive linemen they could throw at you that are going to be fresh. I think the Steelers are starting to get closer to that, at least in terms of their edge rushers with the four guys that they've got at edge, and now you sprinkle in Derek Harmon starting to get a little stronger, a bit on the interior. How about the other injury? Is Calvin Austin the only other one we haven't talked about?
Yeah, we're finishing up, finishing strong. Calvin Austin, who did you see got a like new baby puppy?
No, I think that was a throwback to a year ago. He was like, "Happy birthday, happy number two birthday to 1 or 2 birthday to his baby puppy." Yeah.
It was like a newborn puppy, holding a newborn puppy. I'm not holding a newborn puppy. This is not a newborn puppy. This is
Zeke, it's
Zeke.
not time for your
It's
picks yet.
not time. I know you're excited. I know you're pumped to be back. We're excited to have you back. Zeke's just thrilled. But Calvin Austin, whether he can go or not, I think the big question that you've really been bringing up a lot, that a lot of people in Pittsburgh have been talking about, is are we going to see more of Roman Wilson? When will we see, if at any point, are we going to see Roman Wilson this season? Blake Tomlin's comments were interesting today because we basically got a wait and see
Well,
as it develops from him.
yeah, so there's a couple things within this conversation. One of them is that the Steelers probably run the least wide receiver friendly offense in the entire NFL.
Yep.
I say that because they target wide receivers the least. 40% of the passes are going towards wide receivers. Also, they throw the ball short, which isn't necessarily a great thing if you're a wide receiver. And then they've got DK Metcalf, who, if they throw the ball to a wide receiver, there's a good chance that it's going to be to him. All those things work against a guy like Roman Wilson. Um, the Steelers, right now, their primary personnel grouping is 12 personnel.
Yep.
Um, that's what they do. Okay, so 2 tight ends, 1 running back, which only leaves room for 2 wide receivers. And so there's a significant difference in the playing time between the number 2 wide receiver on the depth chart, Calvin Austin, and whoever you want to call number 3.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Like Calvin Austin and DK Metcalf, their routes run, their snaps, very, very similar. And then there's a massive drop off. And then it's all the other guys, Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek situationally,
Yeah.
and Roman Wilson. So, like, if Calvin cannot go, I look at this as one of the biggest opportunities for Roman Wilson to start to change their team's mind,
Yeah.
because for whatever reason, he hasn't earned enough trust to, like, at least split time with Calvin or be sprinkled into the fold. It's so funny because we kept asking the question, like, who is the number 2 wide receiver? And I thought it would be kind of like by committee, or it would be situational.
His situation.
Clearly, it's number 2 is Calvin Austin. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no question about it based on the way that they've split up the reps to this point. But if he misses and Roman Wilson has a chance to shine, maybe he can shake up that dynamic.
Yeah, if Calvin can't go, I will be very intrigued to just see the impact that Roman Wilson might be able to make, because I feel, and this can kind of lead perfectly into our next topic or next segment here, but the Browns, you feel, are a very sneaky matchup for the Steelers. And I think within that, this offense is going to need to get creative. I think we're going to need to see more from this offense than what we've seen through the first handful of weeks with the short yardage situation, with them relying a lot on these short, quick passes where they get a lot of yards after catch because of what the Browns bring and because of what the Browns pose.
Right. So yeah, we've
There's no
been
one to
we've
pose.
we've been talking about it, and like, yeah, the Browns are the Browns. The Browns is the Browns,
Browns
to
is the
quote
Browns.
Juju directly.
Oh, good times.
They have one win. They have too many quarterbacks. They have no direction.
Well, do they have too many quarterbacks now? We'll
Mm,
get there. We'll get there.
They have no plan at quarterback, no
Nope.
vision for quarterback. But, like, okay, so if you were to design a defense that could combat what the Steelers' offense is doing right now, you would say, first and foremost, you need to come up with a way to make the Steelers' offense one-dimensional. So shut down the run. Well, the Cleveland Browns do that.
Yep.
Right now, they're allowing 3 yards per carry, which is tops in the NFL.
Yep.
Okay. So for a Steelers team that's been inconsistent running the ball, it's a huge test for them, and it could be a really big challenge. Beyond that, I would say, okay, you've got a young Steelers offensive line and a 41-year-old quarterback who wants to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Pressure, bringing pressure. Obviously, with Myles Garrett, we know that the Browns can do that.
Yep.
Right now, they're tied for 5th in sacks, and they've bolstered that defensive line even more with the rookie Mason Graham and some other pieces up front. So what was already a strong pass rush is only getting stronger.
Yeah.
And then the third part is, while it's a risk to play man coverage, if the Steelers are going to try to get the ball out of their hands quickly, then playing a lot of press man coverage to disrupt timing at the line of scrimmage could be a way to counteract that. So, and what do you know? The Browns are number 1 in man coverage rate. That is their preferred coverage. They're doing it at an extremely high rate. So I feel like you have a lot of the elements, and like they've got good cornerbacks.
Yeah.
They might feel more comfortable than some teams would putting their corners against DK Metcalf one-on-one. So I mean, the gamble and all of that is DK is a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude is ridiculous. You saw what he was able to do with the ball in his hands, and basically turning nothing into an 80-yard touchdown all on his own. That would be the concern and why teams don't want to play man coverage. But I think you're going to see like a mix of schematics where you could play a lot of man, and then as a change up, throw in some different zones, cover 2 and stuff. And then one thing the Seahawks did really well was quarter, half.
Yep.
With the cover 2 side creating a zone double on DK Metcalf. And you can check into a lot of that from your man coverages and stuff. So like, I feel like they have all the tools to really defend the Steelers in a difficult way and make this a more difficult matchup than what it would appear when you say Steelers versus Browns.
That's what I kind of my assessment so far as we've been going through kind of the early portions of the week, looking at kind of the matchups and looking at all this, is that this on paper, I think a lot of people are looking and saying, oh, okay, it's the Browns. They're 1-4. Da da da. They don't know what they're doing at quarterback. It's this, Dylan Gabriel making his second career start. I think this is a much more challenging matchup. And I think this is a much more tough test for the Steelers. And I think what a lot of people are coming in, just when you look at it on paper, I think there's a lot more depth to it. There's a lot more layers than just, okay, this is the Browns. This is who they are. They don't, they're kind of in disarray. I don't think they're in disarray as much as people think. I think they've also been in some closer games. I mean, they were leading the Vikings until that last late drive where Carson Wentz hits Justin Jefferson. And I think for me, that's going to be how the Steelers can attack and can win this game. Is it's just going to be kind of those consistent matchups where it's like, hey, as soon as there's a one-on-one with DK, there's any opportunity, Aaron Rodgers has to take advantage of it. And you need the line to make a big impact here. I think that's going to be kind of the matchup within this game that I'm really watching, is how this young offensive line holds up against this Browns defensive front that, like you mentioned, is so stout. You have Myles Garrett, you have, younger players in it, in Mason Graham, and I'm forgetting some of the other. I'm gonna
Right.
On the right side, but you have really impressive
Alex Wright.
We were right. Yeah. There we go. Haha. But really just cracking myself up, But I think that to me is where this game is going to be won. And it was when I asked Mike Tomlin, okay, it's a small sample size, but what have you seen from your offense through the first 4 weeks, now that you've had the chance to self-scout, now that you've had the chance to look, and where do you want to see the improvement? And he said in all areas, but he made a very concerned effort to mention the offensive line and just mention that they need to continue to get this in-game experience and continue to grow, and they better make plays along the way. And I think that's what this game is going to come down to for me.
Yeah, I think because the offensive line is so important to what the Steelers want to do. It's holding them back right now.
Yeah.
They are not running the ball, even though they ran the ball well once.
Yeah.
Okay, out of
4 games.
4 games, they're still one of the worst rushing teams in terms of yards per carry. They still are giving up too many pressures. Broderick Jones right now is tied for the league lead with 4 sacks allowed. So like they are so important, and if there is one area that, not to mention, like, this isn't just a 2025 thing. Um,
This has
if the
been
offensive line starts looking like a strength by the end of the season, I don't even care what else happens for the Steelers. I would consider that a successful year. Now,
yeah.
I also think we saw the Steelers use Spencer Anderson as an extra offensive lineman, as an extra tackle.
Yeah.
That's something I think that will continue, especially when they have to account for Myles Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
They're also, I think, going to throw in a couple wrinkles with Spencer Anderson, which I can't talk about until after the game. So using him to help counteract both in the run and in pass protection, I think, is going to be part of the game plan. Um, the other part for me when we talk about this being a tough matchup is the Steelers' defense has been inconsistent for the last 2 years against the run, and they're very reliant on turnovers.
Yep.
Quinshon Judkins does not fumble,
No.
dating back to Ohio State. So that isn't going to work. And then the whole reason why they went from Joe Flacco to Dylan Gabriel is because Flacco was turning it over time.
Yeah.
Gabriel, no turnovers in his debut.
No.
And Mike Tomlin talked about how his processing is his superpower, basically saying he makes quick, accurate decisions. And then they've got a tight end in Njoku,
And Njoku,
and
who is
the Steelers for years have struggled against tight ends.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like styles make fights, and in this instance, there are a lot of things going in the Browns' direction, even though I would never pick them to win, and I think the Steelers are going to win this one.
I do too.
I think it could be more competitive than what people believe.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about this game. As I think a lot of people are going in thinking, okay, it's just the Browns. It's going to be more than that. And also, division games are always played so close. And I feel like every game in the NFL this year has been played really close. I'm going to get this stat right. It's at the top of my head. Mike's been roasting me a little bit because I'll throw a stat out and he's like, you didn't finish it. And it's true. But there have been 17 NFL games this season that have been a one-score game in the fourth quarter. There's parity. It's the NFL is just the way it is, but it does feel like so many games are coming down to the wire. And how many of those games have the Steelers played? I feel like
They only play close
that's
games.
all they play.
They always play close games.
That is all they
Okay,
play.
do you want to talk about the AFC North
We-
changing landscape?
We do, because shortly after we're recording this on Tuesday night, and shortly after Mike Tomlin's press conference ended on Tuesday, you left pretty quickly. You missed the explosion of fireworks of all of Pittsburgh media finding out or Steelers media, I guess, one by one, that Joe Flacco had been traded, an in-division trade, mid-season in-division trade to the Bengals. That one, I don't know if I saw that one coming. I figured the Bengals would trade for somebody. I didn't think it was going to be Joe Flacco.
I thought it was going to be Russell Wilson.
That's what, yeah.
We were sitting here in the living room watching the Bengals game, and the broadcasters were saying, hey, this is an offense that's built around the deep ball. And right now they don't have it with Jake Browning. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how about a moon ball?
Yeah.
That's who I would have traded for if I'm the Bengals, to try to salvage things. But maybe they, for whatever reason, decided that they wanted to go with the more cost-effective approach in the guy that knows the AFC North even better, in Joe Flacco. I could look at this like one of two ways. I mean, it's a desperation move. There's
Right.
no doubt about it. That I don't know if it's going to work. On one hand, I look at it and I say, well, Joe Flacco is the guy that got benched by the Browns and who kept turning the ball over, and that's why he got benched by the Browns.
Yep.
The Browns, who can't find a quarterback. You're not good enough. You're on the jersey. He made his way in the jersey, and that's all he did.
41 starting quarterbacks since
That's crazy.
99.
Now, on the other hand, I look at this and say, Joe Flacco torched the NFL's highest paid defense last year,
Yep.
and with the help of Shane Steichen, ate Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin's lunch.
Yep.
And so maybe he still has enough in him to pull off one or two upsets and disrupt what's going on in the AFC North, especially for the Steelers. But overall, I think that this is just like a move to make a move because you realize Jake Browning's not the guy. And they're probably just kind of rolling the dice, hoping that Joe Flacco can't be any worse.
And the state of the AFC North, you have the Steelers, and it's worse. It's not great. And I don't think you and I definitely did not think coming into this season it would be this way at this point. But this week feels do or die for the Ravens. And I feel like that should not be the case. But I think just based on where they are, I think they'll, when they get healthy and when they can go into their bye, get their footing back under them and be competitive in the way that we know this Ravens team can be. But I feel like they're losing too much ground almost at this point. Same with the Bengals. And then again, you have the Browns. So things can change in an instant with the Browns particularly. But I think the Ravens and the Bengals, to me, I, it's not looking great by any means with where they sit in the division right now. Both with Bengals have 2 wins. The Ravens only have 1.
Mm-hmm. I think when you look at the division, I think it's important to remember like nothing has changed for the Steelers. Nothing the Steelers have done, in my eyes, has changed my outlook on them. I still look at this as a 10-7 team that, if they get the right matchup in the playoffs, could win a playoff game, and that's probably about their ceiling. But like, just because everybody else is struggling doesn't mean that the Steelers have taken a step forward in any kind of substantial way in any sort of area.
And I think that that's I don't know. I feel like we're asking players in the locker room a little too soon about this. Like, yes, it was a great thing that the best possible scenario could have happened for them during their bye week is that all 3 of their other divisional opponents lost in the way that they did. But it's week 6. It's not week 16.
Yeah, I think the thing that would give me the most confidence that the Steelers can actually win the division and take advantage of this early lead is that the Ravens are so injured.
Yeah.
If it was just that the Ravens had a 1-point loss in week 1 to the Bills,
Yep.
if they only had a 1-possession loss to the Lions, I'd sit there and be like, you know what? They're still competitors. They're still one of the teams in the small handful that could compete for the Super Bowl. But because the injuries have been so substantial to so many significant players, that's where my mind starts to change a little bit in terms of like what the Ravens can accomplish. But look, Vegas is never wrong.
Yeah.
They still think that the Ravens are going to win the division. And I could see why they have them there because, the Steelers, Terrell Austin said during OTAs, we have a Baltimore problem.
Yeah.
And the Steelers still have to play the Ravens twice. And so in that way, the Ravens, I think, still control their own destiny. It would not surprise me if this comes down to Week 18 Steelers versus Ravens, and the winner of that game ultimately wins the division and gets the home playoff game. And I think that is what it's going to take for the Steelers to win their first playoff game in forever. Having that home field advantage, having a better matchup, I think is going to make all the difference in terms of trying to win that playoff game.
And I think if you said at the beginning of the season the top 4 teams in the AFC were going to be comprised of the Colts, the Jaguars, the Bills, and the Steelers, I think everybody said, yeah, Buffalo, they figured that. Not any of the other 3.
Yeah, which is why I think it's early.
Yeah.
And I think that by the end of the season, I feel like we do this every year.
Yep.
Didn't we do it last year where we were saying all the Chiefs are in disarray and who knows what's going to happen? And the Eagles, A.J. Brown is upset that they're not throwing him the ball enough. We just did this last year, and then they pulled it back together, and obviously Eagles win the Super Bowl. Like, I think good teams figure it out, and especially when you have good quarterback play like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, they're going to figure it out. They're going to go on a run. The Ravens are going to go on a run at some point. It's just a matter of, can the Steelers get to 5-1, and then can they steal a couple games or win a couple competitive games when it actually starts getting tougher in their schedule?
Yep. No, if the Steelers can go, I mean, you have 2 divisional opponents. You face the Browns, and then the Bengals. And if the Steelers can come away with victories in both of those, then I think they're setting themselves up in a really good spot. But again, still a very long road to go. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Camryn Justice from Cleveland, she covers the Browns. She is joining us. Stick with us. This is the Insiders. And welcome back to the Insiders podcast. It is Browns week, so naturally we have to have an esteemed Browns reporter joining us. Camryn Justice from News 5 in Cleveland is here with us. And Camryn, I want to just kind of dive right in because the quarterbacks have no doubt been the storyline of the Browns. All summer, all training camp, everything. Honestly, since the draft and maybe even before then. What is kind of been going on? And obviously they made one quarterback change already. Was this kind of the plan going in? Did you see Joe Flacco playing for longer? Like, how was this kind of all played out and what was expected?
Yeah, I think the timeline got moved up a little bit sooner than I would have anticipated. I think just, you start the year 1-3 and you go into that game and you're like, okay, now we're 1-4. I think that like just the disappointing nature too in which the Browns have lost. The offense just has not been clicking. So I think that sped up the timeline a little bit more than a little bit quicker than we would have anticipated. But I think it was always kind of in the cards for Joe Flacco to start. He's a veteran. You want to put him out there, let the rookies watch, learn, develop. Then you go to your rookie. So Dylan Gabriel kind of always, they drafted him in the 3rd round. Shedeur Sanders, it's not a surprise they drafted him in the 5th round. So that sets the hierarchy and the tier system on its own there. Obviously, through camp, that you can maybe move the needle one way or another, but the system was just, it fell in place the way that we all kind of expected. Now the timeline changes. So now we've gone from Joe Flacco, who threw 6 interceptions, fumbled the ball 2 times in 4 games. At that point, you kind of you take it out of the hands of the timeline and you're forced to make a decision because as low as the expectations may have been for this, I don't want to say like super low, right? But the realistic expectation for this team from the organization itself was last season, they went 3-14. This season was not going to be 14-3. Now, 1 win through 5 weeks is not the way that they want things to go or expected things to go, I think. But I think now we're kind of getting the idea of what the timeline was supposed to be a little sooner in hopes that it can spark something to salvage some maybe hope, goodwill within the franchise, within the organization, within these players. You don't want to lose your players. You don't want things to spiral. Every week you're looking for a win. So how do you get that? You got to get that offense going. And Dylan Gabriel felt like an easy way to make a change and maybe create a spark, which just kind of moved the timeline up a little bit.
Yeah, so they made the change at quarterback, going with Dylan Gabriel, and it wasn't an easy debut. He goes against this Vikings defense with Brian Flores on the other side. He's known as such a great defensive coordinator, throws all kinds of exotic pressures and different blitzes and different looks at a quarterback. How did Gabriel look? What were some of your initial impressions of him in his first action?
I think the biggest thing for him was that he did what Joe Flacco was not really able to do. And Joe Flacco's 40 years old, so it's not a surprise that he wasn't able to do it, but it was that mobility, right? And taking care of the ball. Joe Flacco could take care of the ball, I think, in a different scenario. But the Browns' offensive line has been riddled with injuries. The tackle situation has been really rough, trying to figure out who is going to be able to play competent football for them, to be able to protect and keep that pocket alive long enough. And for Joe Flacco, that pocket collapsing even a little bit. Normally, he's good at getting that ball away. He makes smart decisions, but when you are unsure about any scenario in which, the pass rush is coming at you in every direction, I think we saw Joe Flacco make plays that he would not have made. He made decisions that he normally would not have made because that offensive line has been through so much. So as you're still dealing with that, it's nice that, Jack Conklin was able to get back, and we hope that he stays healthy, you know, in Cleveland, to watch him be able to see a little bit more of what that offensive line is supposed to look like. And especially with Dylan Gabriel out there, because, you know, right tackle then becomes your blind side. So you want a veteran there. You don't want that question mark. But that said, I think that Dylan Gabriel was able to do that. I think that when the pocket was collapsing a little bit, he was able to be a little bit more mobile. He got through a couple times, not like some crazy, not Lamar Jackson, right, running out there
Right.
gaining the yard, but just being able to move a little bit allows you to gain 5-6 yards, allows you to maybe get that check down and not have the interception, where Joe Flacco was looking for that check down and then getting picked, or looking for that explosive play and getting picked. What we didn't see a lot from Dylan Gabriel was those explosive passes, deep shots that wasn't happening. I think that was maybe a little bit scripted that way, with Minnesota having a great defensive coordinator and a strong defense, especially in their pass coverage, right? You don't want to put him in that scenario where off the rip you've given him a bad opportunity and put him in a potential situation to turn that ball over. I think they played it a little safe with him, which is kind of unfortunate, because if you were maybe if it would have worked, right, and you were a little more trusting, maybe those explosives could have led to another score, and you wouldn't have lost in London. But that said, you also want to, you know, put that rookie in the best possible scenario in his debut. I think that was done. Didn't necessarily look as exciting as maybe some people wanted it to, but I think that Dylan did. He showed what was needed of him in that moment, was able to manage things. And in the fourth quarter, things got a little not so great, right? But for the most part, I think that was what they needed to see from him. And from this point on, it's about what else can you get from Dylan Gabriel? Can you start to release the leash a little bit? Let's lengthen that leash, see what he's able to do. Let those passes fly a little bit longer. Give him some of those designed plays that have a receiver open. It's also about the Browns getting on the same page, not just at the quarterback position, but the receivers have struggled with drops. That we talked about, that offensive line. Like, there are so many areas in which this offense has to clean up, which is unfortunate, because it all kind of circles back. We all look at the quarterback and like, okay, like, well, Joe Flacco's not doing well, so let's go Dylan Gabriel. And if for some reason Dylan Gabriel doesn't do well because the other pieces are not being cleaned up, then it's, well, let's go to Shador, but that doesn't put Shador
Right.
Sanders situation either. So it's, the Browns have a lot to do to clean up in order to have success as an entire offense. But for what they've got right now, as they do clean that up, I liked what I saw from Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, need to see a lot more, but small sample size, maybe not a super great scenario for any offensive player to be in right now as they work those kinks out. But I think there's promise for there's a potential there for him in the coming weeks.
And you mentioned kind of some of the things in this offense that haven't gone right and haven't gone well. I think you look at Gabriel, and it was interesting kind of seeing the way that Browns players responded when they were asked about him. Like, that seemed like a very high point after the game, knowing, yes, it was a brutal loss in London to lose that way, but that there was the positive side of things. Quinshon Judkins also has really impressed me in the little bit I've seen, you know, when we're watching games and we're not covering games. But from your perspective, just how has he elevated this offense? What has he brought to this offense? And how much of a bright spot has he been in an offense that has had a lot of other pieces that they want to clean up and that they want to fix?
Oh, he is the bright spot. he has become the offense, right? Like, I mean, it's Quinshon Judkins' world, and we're just living in it when he's out there running on the field. It's really impressive. As a rookie, he just has come in and not looked back. I think it's really impressive the way that he's able to break contact, and he's able to really show his strength with his legs. He's got, well, knock on wood, great ball security so far. He doesn't look like a rookie out there. And that's what, you know, the past couple seasons, as the Browns have dealt with injuries to Nick Chubb was that run. He was the run game. And when you don't have Nick Chubb, it kind of, you lose the identity of your offense. And I think the Browns offense is built around a strong run game And then that opens up the passing game, and that allows them to do things, but it starts with the run game. And we've seen it for years, and then with the past couple years, due to injuries, it's kind of taken a back seat, and they've had to figure out other ways. I think Quinshon Judkins allows the Browns the ability to get back to what they want to be, which is that AFC North, tough nose, like we're running the ball and try to stop us. And then when you do try to stop them, well, then there are receivers open, and it creates a nice balance. The problem right now is that even though Quinshon is playing incredibly well through his first few games of the season, when it does open up the passing game, the receivers have had those struggles. Dropped passes, the inability to get open. And so the marriage between the run and the pass game that Kevin Stefanski has built his offense around. He came in here in 2020 and said that's what he wants to do. That's what he aimed to do. He hasn't been able to do that this season with Quinshon, but Quinshon, I will say, allows them that ability in a way that they haven't been able to have in the past couple of years as Nick Chubb has had those injuries. So if you're looking for a replacement to a guy who really can't be replaced, a peak Nick Chubb, because there's nobody like a peak Nick Chubb, I think Quinshon Judkins is himself, but he gives you that nice, it feels very similar to the excitement in about the run game that you had with Nick Chubb. And I will say, what I hope to see after, we've established that Quinshon is doing his thing, I would like to see a little bit more Dylan Sampson in there to see if he can be, that 1-2 punch. He's been strong in the pass game. I like him as that back to complement Dylan, or to complement Quinshon Judkins. I think Dylan Sampson could be that guy. We had that here in Cleveland watching Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt for those years. And so I would like to see if Dylan Sampson has the ability to complement Quinshon in that capacity. So the run game is the bright spot, the silver lining of an offense that is working itself out. So if nothing else, the Cleveland Browns have Quinshon Judkins in the run game to be excited about each week.
Yeah, and a running back in a running game is a young quarterback's best friend. And I agree with you. Like Quinshon Judkins reminds me so much of Nick Chubb. When you think about the Browns, you think of a big physical running back, and that's definitely what the Browns have in Quinshon Judkins. Now, when you think about the Browns, you also think about Myles Garrett. And in Pittsburgh, there's a little bit of the rivalry. People here always say TJ Watt is the best edge rusher. Cleveland, I'm sure they have a different point of view. What's Garrett been up to? Is this just another classic Myles Garrett season that he should be in contention for Defensive Player of the Year? And more specifically, I'm curious, like, it seemed like he had some health questions going into the last game, and he wanted to play and he played through it. Where is he at physically after that game?
Yeah, so we haven't gotten like an official update. I would imagine that he gets his rest days in practice. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him. I don't think that's any indication that he wouldn't play for any reason. He was dealing with an ankle injury, but Myles Garrett plays through those kinds of things. He tries to take care of his body. So we might not see him in practice all 3 days this week. Not really an indication unless it starts to build up, as the week goes on. Not really an indication to me. And Kevin Stefanski said, some of the guys banged up from that game, but he likes where they're at health-wise. We'll see how we get into. So Wednesday will be the first kind of test on the injury front. But, as for Myles in the season, off to a hot start through the first few games. The last couple games, it's been a little quiet in terms of showing up on the stat sheet that you're looking at, the sacks, right? He's got 6 total on the year, didn't have one against the Vikings. But he's putting the pressure on, the across the board, not just with Myles, but the Browns defensive line, the pass rush win rate has been through the roof. The defensive tackles that the Browns have added in Malik Collins and rookie Mason Graham have been astounding. And I think that has allowed Myles to get in there and put even more pressure on, build up those 6 sacks. Or some of them were split, but I think they're a testament to how that interior has really benefited him. And it's not just, it's not Myles just not getting sacks and the Browns aren't getting sacks. You know, you got Alex Wright making crazy plays out here. Isaiah McGuire has made plays. Aiden Huntington out here making plays. Like the defensive line has really been the staple of this team through the first 5 weeks. And I think that, I mean, the defense is the staple of this Browns team in general. Like, I think the Browns move as the Browns defense moves. And when they're out there too long, and we saw last year, like the Browns defense was really strong at the first part of the season. And as the offense was struggling and continuing to struggle, so did the defense, because they got gashed, they got tired. It wears on a defense. And so I think they've always been the strength of this team. And it's, can that offense help complement and carry some of that weight? Now, was the defense their best in London? It certainly not. Pass coverage gave up 252 yards, I think. They held them to under 100 rushing yards, which is that's the bread and butter this year, is the run stop is on point. But pass coverage could have been better, but it's hard to cover a guy like Justin Jefferson through all 6 of a game. So I'm not like super concerned about that. But across the board, I think all of the defense is helping split the wealth of production. So while Myles Garrett might not have 12 sacks right now, I think other guys have been able to produce across the board, which is maybe not, I don't want to say taken away from Myles, but it's they're in a contest. They're racing each other. Who can beat Myles Garrett? And if that means that Myles has 6 sacks and doesn't have a sack against the Vikings in week 5, and Alex Wright has a sack and Malik Collins is in there, like that, I'm fine with that, right? Like if I'm the Browns, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Sorry, like Myles, you keep pushing for your individual stats, but at the end of the day, it's a team game, right? It's about the defense performing. So Myles has been his typical self. I expect that number to continue to climb. And as it does, then that conversation, I think Myles Garrett's always in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. He's Myles Garrett. But we also know that the stat sheet is kind of how those awards are determined. If you're not the sack leader, good luck.
Right.
You've got to be the sack leader basically to sniff that award. So we'll see if he's able to put those numbers up. But either way, I think what he brings to a defense, and that's every season, puts him in that conversation. And this season so far has been no different.
How about if we look at the matchup? So the Steelers offense right now, they're somewhat hamstrung by the fact they have a young offensive line, and that young offensive line is going through its growing pains right now. Broderick Jones is up there. I think he's allowed 4 sacks, which is tied for the league lead. Then at the same time, they've got a 41-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who's not nearly as mobile as he once was. So their game plan basically is like, if you get the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands really quickly, the pass rush can't get to him. You put it in DK Metcalf's hands 2, 3, 4 yards down the field. He takes off running yards after the catch. You can do big things. Like stylistically, how do you feel like the Browns might match up or might give the Steelers some problems based on that style of offense and the style of defense the Browns want to run?
Well, I will say, the pass rush is big in Cleveland. So the effort it will take to get that ball out quickly will be there for Aaron Rodgers. He's going to feel
For
every
sure.
second of that. If that's the bread and butter, I think that kind of suits the Steelers well anyway, because that's what they're used to, right? Okay, like it doesn't even matter if you're coming at us because we're getting this ball out anyway. What I think matches up well is the efforts from the linebackers. You get to that second level, and I think Carson Schlesinger, we talk about all these rookies, right? The Browns rookie class is, I think, unmatched. It's incredible the way that these guys have started their careers. We talked about Quinshon Judkins, talk about Mason Graham on the interior. Let's talk about Carson Schlesinger. I think that he is a massive part of the Browns defense and the efforts that they're going to have and the success that they can have moving forward. And he's been great. He's wearing the green dot. He's leading the defense as a rookie. And so I think when you get into that, okay, where if we're going to check the ball down if there's anyone that I like to take down a guy like DK Metcalf, it's a guy like Carson Schlesinger who wants to hit guy like he's not afraid of a DK Metcalf. He's not afraid to make that tackle. I think the same is said for Grant Delpit, right? The way that he approaches things, like everyone asked him about Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter to him. Derrick Henry's a large man. Doesn't matter. How do you tackle?
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. He'll do it. So I do think in that regard, that kind of mindset from the Browns secondary and the linebacker group is that sets them up well for that kind of game, the short game, stopping things from getting ahead. Like they can't break through that second level if they get that ball right there, right? So I think that's where the matchup is great. But on the other hand, I think it benefits the Steelers well that they're used to getting that ball out quickly, because that is the one, like that's the main strength of the Browns defense, is that pass rush and forcing that. So if they're already used to it, it might not be a big surprise when they see that interior collapsing and the edges coming around to Aaron Rodgers. He's already probably planning to get that ball out anyway. So I think it's an interesting matchup to see then how that Browns defense, how it trickles down to them, how they're able to clean things up and stop the yards after catch, to stop that from getting in their way. Because if they're able to do that, I think that's how you contain the Steelers' offense. If you're not able to do that, that's how you let the game get away from you.
And we know that AFC North games are always just, they end up being weird. They end up being wacky. We throw the records out the window because it doesn't matter. And I don't think coming into this game, it matters that the Steelers are 3-1 and the Browns are 1-4. Is that right? 1-4? Am I doing that? Yeah, 1-4.
It is. Unfortunately.
The early bye week is throwing me so hard because I'm like doing all the math of everybody else. But yeah, you throw the records out the window basically. Vegas has the Browns coming into Pittsburgh as a 4.5-point underdog. What is it going to take what is going to have to happen for the Browns to come away victorious in this game?
It's really going to have to be them not getting in their own way. I mean, we saw it. That's what lost them the game week 1 against the Bengals. It lost them the game in London against the Vikings. They have too many times gotten in their own, and some of these losses, like the loss to the Ravens on the box score, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, the Browns got blown out. It doesn't look like that without massive amounts of turnovers, the takeaways that the Ravens are able to get. I think you've addressed that now. Hopefully, you hope that you've addressed that with the quarterback change. And so you don't have that. And then it gets a little wacky, right? Because you preach the turnover margin is the most important thing, and teams that win the turnover margin tend to win the game. That statistically, that's how it works. Except that's not how it worked in London. The Browns had 2 forced fumbles and recoveries and still lost. And I think then that becomes, okay, well, then it's a little bit of time management, right? Should you have burned those timeouts if you're Kevin Stefanski? Because then you don't have timeouts and you're putting your rookie quarterback in a position where he's got 20 seconds to go downfield and score a touchdown. Probably not going to happen that way. But you're also playing ahead because, okay, if they score a field goal, you want to be able to have the time to answer back, get downfield, kick a field goal, win the game. You don't want to tie. So I think that kind of got in their own way. I see the reason behind it. But like in hindsight's 2020, you're like, I wish you wouldn't have done it, because you would have had the time to get downfield and maybe win that game. And I think a lot of the Browns' missteps has just kind of been getting in their own way. You lose week 1 by 1 point, and Andre Schmidt's a good kicker. I truly believe that he's a good kicker. It's uncharacteristic to miss a field goal, let alone an extra point in a field goal, and you lose the game by 1 point. That's tough. And so I think if they want to win this game, it's making smart decisions. It's playing you can play exactly the way you did against Minnesota. If you don't feel comfortable opening things up yet for Dylan Gabriel, I think that's perfectly fine. I still think that gives the Browns a chance to win a game. But if you're going to do that, you also have to make every decision right to complement that. If you're not going to get risky, if you're not going to aim for the explosive plays, then you have to be sound in every other area. And so that, to me, is the challenge for the Browns to put on themselves. The defense just needs to be their defense, not like from weeks 1 to 4. If they're that, they've had every opportunity to be in these games. And again, it's the AFC North, like you said, anything can happen. So it could. I think the last game that I went to not to cover and work a game was the Browns Steelers game in Cleveland. It was that fun tie in the rain where no one could make a field goal and nobody won. So that's, to me, like, that's the epitome of these two teams facing each other. Is like, yeah, dumb, crazy things can happen. You guys know. You guys know that's how the Browns made the playoffs in 2021. Crazy things happen.
Yep.
And the game can just, anything can happen. So I do think it's a tough test for Dylan Gabriel. Like, you know, he makes his debut. It's a home game, but it's neutral territory. Basically, you're in London. You're out of the country. You're going into enemy territory. You're going into a place that is not going to be kind to you. Like, and you can't fault them because, you know, Cleveland is not kind when Pittsburgh comes to town. It's a rivalry game. And so I'm excited to see how Dylan handles it, but it's definitely a unique challenge for him to handle that as well. It's going to be quite the experience for him to see what what these two fan bases have to bring out there to each other. But I think that looking at what the Steelers have done this season, looking at what the Browns have done this season, records don't reflect how this game could go. This could be anyone's game. I mean, it really could be, and it wouldn't surprise me either way. Like, no matter who walks away with this win or a tie, in the case, you know, nothing surprises me when the Browns play the Steelers.
It has the feeling and the making of a wacky one because they always do. Camryn, thank you so much for your insight, your knowledge, just everything that you brought. Can you just let people know where they can find you, follow you, and get all that you do in all the content and all the coverage you have?
Yeah. All our stuff's on News 5 Cleveland, on our website there. My social media is at Camryn Justice. Post all of my stories, content there. There's some fun stuff, some segments, some like not football stuff, the get to know you player kind of stuff. So if you're wondering, you know, more about Carson Schlesinger or Dylan Sampson, their secret talents, the things they'd like to do off the field, I got you covered.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to go check those out after
They're
this.
fun.
Oh, I love it. Well, we will see you in Pittsburgh this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be right back on the Yinziders. And welcome back to the Yinziders. It's time for Zeke's picks. Zeke, are you excited to be back? Zeke was on vacation for the last little while. He didn't get to gamble. He was very sad about it. Had a fun weekend of gambling this week. Did it not go? It didn't go well.
I don't think Zeke
Didn't
is
go
still
well.
upset about his parlay that didn't go well.
Didn't go well. Buried his head in my lap here. Just was real upset about this. Zeke, the good news is, though, is you have a chance to redeem yourself. His tail's wagging. I think he's ready to go. Zeke's picks with Zeke is back. We're going to pick AFC North games, prime time, and the Steelers, of course. Zeke, we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. Eagles at the Giant. Who do you like?
Zeke's looking at you like, why are you asking me that question? He's kind of giving you the side eye, which clearly means now he's staring at me like that. He says clearly the Eagles,
Yep.
He likes them to take a big step back, bounce back from their loss. Everybody loses from now and then, but not to the Giants.
No, especially when the Giants lost to the New Orleans Saints. Rough week. Broncos, Jets in London. Oh, did you?
As soon as you said Broncos, he started licking your hand.
Yep, that answers that one. The Broncos.
Zeke, do you think that the Jets could win their first game, though? In London, a little bit of a weird situation. Like, teams don't go the entire season without winning a game. Could it create a weird situation?
No.
No.
He's looking at you. He feels sad. He's looking at you with sad eyes. He's sad for Jets fans. Yeah. Oh, you're not sad for Jets fans? You don't like the Jets? We have some friends that are Jets fans. It's okay. AFC North, Rams at the Ravens. Zeke, who's winning this one? Are the Ravens gonna get blown out again? Does LA take this one? I think he's saying LA. I feel like he's saying LA in this one.
Yeah, I think that he's saying that too because Lamar Jackson's not going to play, and he's just such a huge piece of what they do. They've got a million injuries right now, and the Rams varsity versus the Ravens JV. I'll take the Rams every time in that one.
I think he's looking a little sad too because the Ravens were his Super Bowl pick, and he's not feeling great about his future bet. It's okay. It's okay.
It's all
There's
right,
still
Zeke. It's a
time.
long
It's
season.
a long season. There's still time. The Bengals and allegedly Joe Flacco will be ready to start in time.
No, that's not what they said.
Did I read that wrong?
Did they? I thought they said that they were still planning to start Jake Browning.
Oh, I might have read that wrong. I thought Adam Schefter. Ignore me.
Or I did. Did we? Let's do an immediate
We're
fact
checking,
check.
fact checking right here. I thought I read Schefter tweeted that the hope is for Jake Browning or for Joe Flacco to be able to learn the offense in time to start. This is
Okay,
really good
how does
content here.
Zeke feel about it?
While we're looking for this, we can edit this. We can, yeah, would like their new quarterback to be ready to play Sunday.
The veteran's expected to be a quick learner. How would he know that?
Yes,
I love when the insiders say stuff like this.
Anyway,
Like, how would he know that he's a quick?
but does it also mean like in a backup situation? That was the tweet that I read, so that was why I was like allegedly. So,
Potentially.
potentially Joe Flacco, Jake Browning, one of the two at quarterback. Zeke, do you? I'm intrigued to see what this means. He placed his taco in my lap. Zeke, do you like the Bengals or the Packers? I don't think tacos go with either.
I think he likes the Packers.
I think he likes the Packers, and you know why? Because there's cheese in this taco.
Okay.
That's what you and you're biting the cheese. You're
Do we want
literally
to show the people the
it's
taco?
gross.
It's kind of a
It's
gross
really
taco.
gross. It's a gross taco. But
Okay.
I like your thank you for making me think one level deep there, Zeke. The taco, the cheese. He's going with the Packers. We'll come back to the Browns Steelers game at the end.
Zeke.
Sunday Night Football, Lions at the Chiefs.
Zeke, we need an actual real pick from you on this one.
I need a real
Come
pick.
here, Zeke.
Come here.
Zeke, come. And the pick is nope. All right, he's just going nuts with his taco.
Just really excited.
I don't know how to feel about this. On one hand, I want to be like the Chiefs are flailing right now, and the Lions are more consistent.
Yeah.
I think I would go with Lions.
Yep.
But sometimes I feel like in the NFL, it's not the better team; it's the more desperate team that wins, and the Chiefs would be the more desperate team.
Yeah. Chiefs are more desperate, but to me, the Lions offense, yeah. Oh yeah, Zeke just nudged the taco into my hands when I was talking about this Lions offense. Yeah, you think the Lions are a better team? Yeah, I think the Lions win this game. It's going to be close, but I think their offense is just too potent, and it's one of the best, if not the best, statistically right now in the NFL. And I think they're just going to put up a lot of points on a Chiefs defense that usually I have a lot of faith in, but I didn't like what I saw from them on Monday night. They also have the short week here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a tough one. That's probably one of the toughest games to pick, and hopefully it's going to be a competitive game. All right, Bills at Falcons. I think because the Bills lost especially, I really like them to bounce back and make a statement in this one.
Yeah. Zeke, do you feel the same way? Do you like, he just nodded.
He
He
gave
just
us a
nodded,
little
gave
like,
us a head nod with the taco in his mouth. This, I want to know what the taco means for the greater scheme of Zeke's picks. But Bills, yeah, I'm with you, Zeke. I agree with you. I think the Bills win this game and figure some of their problems out on offense that plagued them in their Sunday night loss to the Patriots. Bears at the Commanders.
I like the Commanders in this one. I think that coming into the season, they were that team that you were like, are they going to take another step forward? Even after they won a playoff game last year. And I think now with a healthy Jaden Daniels, I think that you'll start to see them show that they can be one of those legitimate contenders.
Their running back, Bill, I love this kid so much. Did you see the interview between him and Tom Brady? Did you see this after the game? After the Commanders won on Sunday, it was the Fox game that Tom Brady was calling, and Brady did a little interview with him, and he was so giddy that Tom Brady was being complimentary of him, and then he just said, like, thanked him so much and was like, "Thank you so much. Like, it's such an honor to be talking to you." Like, as Tom Brady was telling him, like, "It's so fun watching you." He's like cheesing and hold up his little trophy, and he's like geeking out. It was a very youthful moment. So vibes are high with the Commanders. I'm all aboard the Commanders. Zeke, we really need you. This is the last one here.
Last one, Zeke.
Really need you. Oh my God. I need the people to see this. Zeke, come here for 1 second, please. Oh, thank you. Oh no.
Please.
Oh, he's chewing the taco. Zeke, Steelers or Brown? What do you think? Are the Steelers going to
Zeke
win?
is just destroying the audio quality by
Yeah.
chomping on the like crinkliest, noisiest way. Okay, this is.
I need to know. I need to know your picks.
Okay, here's what it means. I finally decoded Zeke. He has 2 toys sitting in his bed right now. One, a dog bone that you would pick if you were going to pick the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
The other one is a taco, which is clearly not the Cleveland
Not the
Browns.
Cleveland
So
Browns.
Zeke, I think, feels very confident in the Pittsburgh Steelers this week.
Yep. Zeke, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think that is going to be an ugly game, as AFC North games usually tend to be. But I think the Steelers just are a better team, and getting healthy guys back at the right time is going to play a big role for them coming back.
Yeah. We talked a lot about this matchup in the first segment, so I don't think we have to go too much deeper into it, but I agree with you. I just feel like the Steelers are rested, the Browns are coming back from London. All the things seem to be going towards the Steelers' favor, and I think that they'll take care of business.
I think so too. As much as you're adjusting to the time, I think the Browns are also adjusting back from London time. So thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of the Yinziders. Be sure to follow us, like us, subscribe, give us really good ratings, please. We take constructive criticism, but we want good vibes too. So give us all your thoughts, and we will see you next week.